Greetings from MedTalks and HeartCare Foundation of India. I am Dr. K.K. Agarwal, and this is the last lecture of our first only digital virtual conference on all aspects of medicine in the COVID era. The last session is the most important one because it talks about patient safety and quality in healthcare in relation to COVID-19 infection, prevention, and control. In today's era, when we are seeing over 3% healthcare workers getting infected in China, over 10% in Italy, over 10,000 in USA, in India, we don't have the exact figure. But hospitals are a hotspot, and we are getting a large number of healthcare workers getting infected. And through the healthcare workers, we get their family getting infected. So it is very important for us to save and prevent infection occurring in our healthcare workers. People have been talking about extended use of personal protective equipments, reuse of personal protective equipments, denying seeing patients if you don't have a personal protective equipments. And even one study talks about all healthcare workers practicing should use povidone iodine nasal spray and oral wash so that in case they are asymptomatic and they have any viral load, it can be taken care of. To answer these questions, we have Professor K.K. Kalra, who is an ex-Chief Executive Officer of NABH and who is the Director, Quality and Safety of HeartCare Foundation of India. He is the best person to answer all your queries. Let's listen to Professor Kalra. All yours.
Foundation of India and MedTalks. You have listened to various specialists discussing about the updates in relation to COVID-19 infection. I will be talking on basics, which are very essential for healthcare delivery. Topic is patient safety and quality in healthcare in relation to COVID-19 infection, prevention and control. Can we separate patient safety from quality of healthcare? No. Patient safety is one of the domains of quality healthcare. And what is patient safety? It is the avoidance, prevention, and amelioration of adverse outcomes or injuries stemming from process of healthcare. And patient safety means it's not only safety of the patients, but is the protection of patients, staff, as well as visitors. And few examples of various injuries or harms being done are hospital-acquired infections, medication errors, falls, sharp injuries, sentinel events are the few examples of harms being done to our patients as well as healthcare staff and visitors attending the hospital. Patient safety is a big concern. It's not only in our country, but it's a global concern. 1 in 10 adults contract infection in a hospital. 1 in 10 patients receive wrong medication or a wrong dose of medicine. And 15% of the healthcare expenditure is on account of managing these harms. Healthcare workers are at the front line of any outbreak response and as such are exposed to hazards that put them at risk of infection with the outbreak pathogens. In this case is the COVID-19. The hazards include pathogen exposure, long working hours, psychological distress, fatigue, occupational burnt out, stigma, and physical and psychological violence, which our healthcare workers have to face. And COVID-19, what is the impact of COVID-19? You can see a significant risk to the healthcare worker. More than 5,000 healthcare workers all infected with COVID-19. It leads to extra burden on healthcare environment, and especially in the critical care settings, is a high risk for nosocomial infections. Various hospitals, whether in Bombay or in Delhi, even in Spain, where healthcare workers had released videos of using garbage bags as protecting clothing, more than 15,000 are sick or under self-isolation, and thousands more are out of action across Europe and US due to virus. Out of these 8,098 cases during the SARS outbreak in 2002, healthcare worker accounted for 21%. Even in COVID-19 also, almost 25% healthcare workers are exposed to this infection. Novel COVID-19 infection is pandemic, is a new virus, highly infectious. Almost all the countries are affected. As on today, total cases globally are 14,31,691. Total deaths, 82,074. And 95% of the mild cases and 5% are the serious one. And if you see the India scenario, there are 5,351 cases and 160 deaths as per World Meter today morning, and doubling time is 4 days. COVID-19 infection has resulted in lockdown or a severe restriction in the most of the affected countries as a containment measure, has resulted in global shortage of resources requiring for managing disease load. Global as well as national economy is being affected. Hospital and field staff is facing public violence, public anxiety, fear and uncertainty is there. Day by day, disease load and deaths are increasing. There's a growing unemployment, migratory labor problems is a big issue. These are all the harms being done by COVID-19, and it is a patient safety issue. What should be done in response to this emergency to protect our communities, healthcare staff and others? Strictly follow the guidelines issued by the WHO or Government of India or by the state authorities from time to time for infection prevention and control of this novel COVID-19. Guidelines are also being changed frequently based on the changing scenario, almost on day-to-day basis. COVID infection in India is mainly a local transmission as on date. Extensive contact tracing and active search for cases in the containment zone is the need of the hour. Testing all the suspect cases and high-risk contacts, isolating all the suspects of the confirmed cases and providing medical care. Quarantine of the contacts, implementing social distancing measures, and intensive risk communication are the steps required for containment of this virus. The state level, besides the central strategy, the state level also there is need for preparedness, readiness, and infection control and prevention and control response, which requires is statewide strategy development, a budgetary provision for PPE. PPE is personal protective equipments, the critical care equipments, sufficient number of beds, sufficient healthcare workers, security of the healthcare workers, and makeshift arrangement for quarantine and isolation of these cases. Diagnostic support, we require a policy for testing kits and various laboratories in all corners of the country. Then training is the most important. It's not one time. Repeated training is very, very important. Then surveillance teams for contact tracing, rapid identification of cases and reporting in the field. Then here some technology use should also be used to cut down on manual contact tracing. Then state level control room has to be there. Implementation of relevant acts and IPCs have to be in place and implemented. Safe transportation of cases and suspected cases has to be there. and community engagement is the most important. Without the cooperation of the communities, infections cannot be of such nature, cannot be controlled or contained. At the healthcare facility level, what's need to be done? The healthcare workers are at the front line and are exposed to hazards that put them at risk of infection. Inadequate infection prevention and control measures may lead to transmission to the patients, staff, visitors, and within the community, or they themselves get infected. Ensuring a triage, early recognition, and source control, isolating patients with suspected COVID is required. All healthcare facilities, whether they're small or large hospitals, should have an infection control and prevention manual based on principles of patient safety practices. Infection control committee, a training, lab and diagnostic safety, sharing of information, risk assessment and mitigation practices. Audits are very important, and learning from these mistakes has to be there. A robust biomedical waste management system, supportive leadership and teams. Regular review and corrective actions need to be taken. Then feedback from every stakeholders, not only staff, from the patients, from the communities, is very, very important for improvement in quality and patient safety. Who are at the risk of infection is already explained. Everybody, single person can infect a large proportion, even in the hospital, even the cleaning staff, the nurses, healthcare professionals, patients, and visitors who comes to the hospital, all are likely get exposed to this infection. So one need to protect yourself, protection of patients, and protecting your family and community. There should be a standard operating procedures for standard precautions and transmission-based precautions. Training of all levels of staff, including cleaning staff, has to be there. And biological waste management system, as per the rules, has to be there in place. Appropriate linen management, especially for the soiled linen, the use of high sodium hypochlorite solution for decontamination before sending into laundry is a must. Then environmental and engineering controls, the bed spacing minimum 1 to 2 meters, isolation rooms, wet or vacuum cleaning in the facility. And what are the standard precautions? The standard precautions, most important is the hand hygiene, the respiratory hygiene or etiquettes, appropriate use of personal protective equipment, which should be risk-based, then safe injection practices, sharp management and injury prevention, safe handling, cleaning and disinfection and sterilization of patient care equipment and devices, as well as surfaces around the patient care area, waste management and safe handling of soiled linen. If you see the droplet precautions, among the standard precautions, what are the droplet precautions? What type of precautions we require? Ideally, these patients should be in a single room. If single rooms are not available, beds should be separated minimum by 1 meter. The personal protective equipments should be used by all the healthcare workers. The medical, which are the most important PPE, the medical mask, the eye protection goggles or a face shield, a gown, and gloves. And for patient, we must ensure there's a limited movement of the patient in the facility. If transportation or movement is required the patient using a medical mask and use predetermined transport routes to minimize exposure of the staff and other patients and the visitors. Standard precaution in relation to the contact precautions, again here, there should be preferably a single room. If single room is not there, then adequate spacing, minimum of 1 meter between the beds. Then hand hygiene, according to the 5 movements of a particular before and after contact with the patient and after removing PPE, hand hygiene has to be done. Avoiding touching eyes, nose and mouth with contaminated gloves or ungloved hands. Then use PPE gowns plus gloves, equipment, cleaning, disinfection and sterilization. And then environmental cleaning, avoiding contaminating surfaces not involved with the direct patient care. It means we need to decontaminate doorknobs, light switches, mobile phones, even stethoscopes, which have come in contact with the patients. Airborne precautions. This COVID-19 is a droplet infection, but when we do some procedure like bronchoscopy, tracheal intubation, pressure on the chest during cardiopulmonary resuscitation, or other procedures, then aerosol producing conditions are there. So we need to observe airborne precautions also when we are doing certain procedures. The following is required. Again, procedure should be done in a single room. There should be adequate ventilation of that area, natural ventilation, airflow of at least 160 liters per second per patient, or a negative pressure room. It means isolation room with the negative pressure gradient, and 12 air changes per hour, and controlled direction of airflow is required. For PPE, the N95 mask, gown, gloves, eye protection, goggles, face shields, and boots are required for prevention from airborne precautions. So these 3 terms, what is cleaning, disinfection, and sterilization? Cleaning is the first step required to physically remove contamination by a foreign material. It means examples are dust or a soil or a soiled linen. It will also remove organic material such as blood, secretions, excretions, and microorganisms to prepare a medical device for further disinfection or sterilization. Then disinfection, a process to reduce the number of viable microorganisms to a less harmful level. This process may not inactivate the bacterial spores, prions, and some viruses. Then is the final sterilization of devices and equipments, a validated process used to render an object free from viable microorganisms, including viruses and bacterial spores, but not prions, is sterilization. Now, coming to the use of antiseptics to reduce COVID-19 load in humans. As informed by Dr. K.K. Agarwal, antiseptic povidone iodine, which has been in use for decades for preparation of the skin in operation theater, iodine has been used very, very commonly. The safe therapy when inhaled nasally or gargled. There are studies which shows that povidone iodine has some virucidal effect also. It's very well tolerated when compared with other gargles antiseptic agents in a common use. In nosocomial pneumonia, it is successfully reduced the bacterial colonization when it is used intranasally or gargles are done with povidone iodine. It's effective virucide in vitro against SARS-CoV virus and MERS-CoV virus, higher virucidal activity than other commonly used antiseptic agents. In vitro treatment with povidone iodine for 2 minutes was adequate to reduce viral activity to undetectable levels in studies shown in UK. So clinical recommendations for use of povidone iodine are a protocolarized nasal inhalation and oropharyngeal wash or gargles with povidone iodine suggested to be used in current COVID-19 in pandemic to limit the spread from patient to healthcare workers and vice versa. It is suggested to take a pilot project to demonstrate the efficacy of this povidone iodine protocol. So in the end, what to communicate and communication platforms for the communities and healthcare staff and all the stakeholders. It means hand hygiene. Hand hygiene means hand wash with simple soap and water, as well as use of alcohol containing say hand sanitizers. Minimum 60% isopropyl alcohol is used in sanitizers. Then respiratory hygiene or respiratory etiquettes or cough etiquettes, very important. Social distancing, minimum distance of 1 meter. Then home care and home quarantine and monitoring of symptoms. All this information, education, we have to give to communities as well as healthcare staff by way of workshops or by displaying posters or through media, print media or digital media. This need to be done. Only with the help of community engagement, we'll be able to control the epidemic of this novel COVID-19 infection. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Kalra, for talking a wonderful presentation on prevention of infection control in the COVID era. Let me summarize this on myself. I'm a practitioner, a physician. So when I start, my duty is to protect my family. My duty is to protect my doctor, my driver when I am in the car. And my duty in the hospital setting or any healthcare establishment is to protect myself, as well as protect the visitors, the family, and the patients getting cross infections. And that's what Professor Kalra has spoken about. So while starting at home to enter my car, I may consider povidone iodine nasal spray and oral wash before I start. When I'm in the car, I will make sure that my windows are open and my AC is closed. And I'm sitting in the back seat with my driver in the front, and both of us are wearing a mask. And when I enter the hospital or a healthcare setting, I continue wearing the mask. And when I enter inside, I change my mask, if possible, to N95 mask, which is preferable in a healthcare setting. I enter my clinic or my hospital and make sure that all surfaces are decontaminated. And my clinic or the healthcare setting was fumigated the last night. And when the doors are opened, I'm away for a couple of minutes before the fresh air goes in. When I go inside, I change to personal protective equipment. That means I use a full body cloth along with a cap, along with gloves and shoe cover, and either a face shield or a goggle. And when I start seeing my patients, I make sure before that all my surfaces are disinfected. My patients maintain a distance of 3 by 3 feet from me. And I am sitting with them face to side and not face to face. I take all precautions of clinic disinfection and sterilization in my area. I make sure my area is ventilated properly with windows open. And if it is an AC atmosphere, which may be having a split AC or a window AC or a central AC, I, in my home setting, may allow window setting or a split AC setting, but in a hospital setting, I prefer it is a ventilated area. If I cannot, then I tilt my settings to allow some mixing of outer air inside. I make sure my toilets are exhaust is not entering into somebody else's balcony or somebody else's room. I talk to my management to make sure that my central AC is not infecting me or my colleagues or the visitors. And if possible, I'm using a HEPA filter air purifiers in my room if my AC cannot be changed, because we know air purifiers can protect me with that. And I make sure that my patients are learning with me the cough etiquettes, the respiratory hygiene, and the head hygiene. And I make sure I change my gloves every time I see a new patient. I may continue to use the same PPE for the next 4 to 6 hours, which is a usual setting for a doctor, because I know once I wear a PPE, I may not go for urination or even for a toiletering or even for eating food. Those precautions I take. And when I come back at home, I try to change my clothes either in my car or in my garage, put them into wash, go back to and take a bath, wear new clothes, wear a mask, and then enter to meet my family. As much as possible, this is what lessons I have learned as a medical doctor from Professor K.K. Kalra, what he has been speaking about. Well, I'll ask Dr. Kalra to give a final comment, and I then say goodbye to all of you. Dr. Kalra.
Yeah. Now, as per CDC, everybody should be using, nobody should go out of a house without a mask. CDC now is allowing a handmade, homemade fabric, some face cover, which can be used as a mask. And everybody, when you're moving out of the house for some essential servicing, buying or something otherwise, even after COVID-19 infection is over, probably time has now come to change our lifestyle. And we should use some kind of a face mask to avoid similar infections in future also. And social distancing will become again a new norm, how we work, whether at industry or our clinics, in hospitals, or even at homes. We must adopt these new norms of social distancing and face cover. And
thank you, Dr. Professor Kalra, and thank you, listeners, with the final message that every person is COVID positive unless proved otherwise, because asymptomatic persons can transmit infections, and every surface you touch is corona positive unless proved otherwise, unless you have disinfected it in your own presence. Well, thank you, Dr. Kalra, for giving a lucid presentation. And that's all for today. And this was the last lecture. And if there are any comments, pass it on to us, and we will be happy to answer you back. Looking forward to see you in many more such events in future. Thank you.